Good morning, good evening, my beautiful, sweet angels. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? Today, I want you to take that moment and get in touch with your feelings, with where you are. Because, my beautiful angels, we have a very special guest. Her name is Dumais, and she's an evolutionary leader and spiritual mentor of healers, empaths, and highly sensitive people. Our Sue is the best selling author, ordained minister, and a global voice of hope and inspiration for the heart led living. What an honor, what a pleasure to be here with you today. How are you, my sweet angel?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you and to join with you in this beautiful divine collaboration.
Hmm. Just sense your presence, your tranquility, your groundness. And I feel like that's a consistent energy that I get to experience in your presence. Would you please share a little bit about that? Because I feel like that is one of your superpowers to be so grounded into what is.
I get that a lot, so I love that you feel that. I do feel like I'm here to be a grounding presence for humanity. At the same time, I'm here to shake things up. So I do both. I ground and I rattle the foundation that people are standing on, especially if it's fear-based. So to feel a groundedness or a grounding presence while we are in a world that feels chaotic or wobbly or uncertain, I feel is such an act of love. I show up with that intention really clearly every day. Peace and groundedness are the two that I really land in with certainty every day.
And your form of love is to present yourself in the level of groundness for you and for those around and hold that space. That is one of your superpowers.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't, I wasn't always connected to it for a long time, especially in the beginning of my life. I was floaty. I was kind of flying and feet off the ground, and I couldn't find my footing. I couldn't find it, but there was so much kind of trauma and everything else in the way. So in clearing all of that trauma, I kind of landed and it's really at the point where I started to really embrace my gift as a healer and stand in it and let it really be embodied, that's when I really felt the sense of grounding, and to be able to extend that into the world as like a tuning fork, I feel is important right now. Yeah.
And was that like an awakening moment for you? Something happened, like an accident that brought you to this awareness and that gift?
Well, there had several kind of awakening moments, but the one that really kind of opened me up to realize that I wasn't cursed, I was actually, it was more of a gift than a curse, was when I was with a friend and I just said to her, I'm like, can I try something? Because I can see your pain in your body and I just want to try something. She's like, okay. So I literally reached in and grabbed it and took it out. And she popped her eyes open and was like, what did you just do? And at first I thought, oh crap, I'm in trouble here. Like I thought it was not a good thing.
I broke
And
her.
she, yeah, I'm like, oh no, she's mad at me or whatever. And she's just like, what did you do? I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, the pain's gone. What did you do? And I'm like, I just took it out. And it was in that moment where I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I just took it out. Like I just literally just removed that pain because it wasn't serving her. It wasn't helping her. It wasn't doing anything. It was just this, I just saw this dense pain that was there that just needed to go. And it, in that moment, I went from like, uh-oh to, like a freedom, like something opened up inside of me. And I realized that I could actually not just hide behind and be the secret healer or the hidden healer or working with people behind the scenes, but I could actually also work intentionally with people and support them in clearing and removing things that aren't supporting them.
I'm hearing this question very loud from a lot of healers that are watching right now, light workers. How did you break through that fear of doing this work undercover with just the few that were ready to hear and understand to sharing this message more on a mass scale where you're open to anybody's judgment or criticism or analysis, so to speak?
It got to the point where my fear of judgment or my fear of what other people thought was overridden by my desire to make a difference, my desire for impact, my commitment to my mission, which is to heal the world, to support the world in healing all their blocks to love. My desire became so much stronger than the fear. And I just learned to get really comfortable with fear. It was almost like, oh, there you are. Okay, I'm on track. So I used it more as a signal, like an indication that I'm on path. I'm like, oh, I feel afraid. Good, I'm on the right path. And I just changed my relationship over time with fear. But at this point, I would rather be judged for doing something, saying something, having an impact, making a difference, than be judged for not doing anything.
Or take your voice to grave and never share that
Mhm,
truth.
because I feel like we're going to be judged no matter what we do at this point. You can do something or nothing and you'll be judged. So I might as well do something and have an impact. And the judgment doesn't stop me anymore. The fear doesn't stop me anymore. It actually motivates and drives me.
And when you see the transformation within people that you've touched, that enough fuels you to continue going and continue pursuing this mission.
Exactly.
When you
Yeah.
shared that, I literally saw this like quick video clip of what you're doing in the world. You know, when you go to an event and you have to hand out your phones, like you're not supposed to use your phones during, a specific event. It almost feels like you're coming to the world and everybody's just handing the walls to their heart so they can allow the flow again. And you're going to the through the world, meeting person by person and kind of like absorbing the walls to their heart so they can allow the flow.
Yeah, I am a transmitter, right? That's part of my role. So when I'm around people, I'm a tuning fork, so I kind of put out that frequency. But I also, when I'm around people, now that I know how to do it, it's not a sacrificial, like, taking it in. I feel the energy. I don't even do it on purpose. It just comes in and it's transmuted and it's cleared. And
Yeah.
it's cleared outside my field, so it doesn't actually interfere with my physical body anymore. So that was a big lesson that I had to learn as well. But yeah, I'm a transmitter. So I take it in and it transmutes and it shifts and leaves.
Mhm. For those of you who are in the transition of practicing this, and you mentioned something very specific that I hear a lot in this world that people take it in, like healers, light workers, they take the pain in. Is this something that you quickly adjusted to, or is there a specific hack that you can almost skip the step of like, oh, I'm taking it all in versus like, oh, I'm just going to allow and trust my energy field to transmute whatever needs to be transmuted?
If people kind of witness it more from like, or set an intention more to process that on the outer layer of the field, then it can be cleared instantly. It's just like even anything right now, as we're talking, if anybody's like, "Oh, I carry a lot of stuff," I'm like, "Great, take that stuff and place it to the outside of the field and ask it to be cleared. Ask it to be processed because it's not yours. You don't need to carry it, and you don't need to process it inside the physical body or inside your energy field. So if you actually take it out to the outer layer, that layer instantly shifts it and clears it from your field. So you don't actually get bombarded. So when I'm meeting people or I'm out in public, it comes into the outer layer of my field and it's processed. It doesn't even come in anymore. Now I still get messages because I'm an empath. I still feel it in my physical body but it's a mirror. It's almost like a holographic kind of mirror of what's going on with them. It's not that their energy coming into my body and me feeling the heaviness or feeling the density or feeling the emotions. I've learned to kind of keep it in that layer, and then it becomes a biofeedback in my body. But it's not their energy in my body, it's their energy in my outer layer of the field. And the biofeedback goes to my body to tell me what's going on. And I can feel it in my body as if it's theirs and mine at the same time. And that's where I can also then use my energy or use my frequency to shift it for them. And then it's all done, but it's all done in the outer layer of my field.
So when you work with someone and you allow the outer field to do the transformation they need to be done, you simply receive a message at the end as a knowing as, hey, this task has been complete, like you're raising something, and then you just sense it in your body, or how do you receive that message?
It varies and it's different each time. Sometimes it'll come in as a physical sensation, and I kind of work through it as if it's in my body, but it's not. And then other times it's just information or a visual or a sensation or yeah. So I get messages in a lot of different ways. I know some empaths and healers get like, very clear messages of sight, or they get clear messages of like more clairsentient. They feel it in their body. I get it in like a whole bunch of ways. So there's not just one. And depending on the individual as well, that it's a biofeedback field that I get the information, but then also when I translate it back for them, one of my biggest superpowers is actually to be able to tune into what someone's talking about. And they're like, oh, when this happened, I was working with this client and this happened. I can actually, like, I'm zoomed right into that experience and I feel it. I feel everything that happened and I feel what went on. And then I can actually translate it for them. And I love doing that because they're like, I don't understand what happened. I'm like, oh, this is what happened. And this is what you can do different next time. Or this is what happened and this is what it's for you. This is important. So you got to look at it this way. And when they have that understanding, their mind opens up and then they lean into their gift even more, right? So our mind is really, the biggest veil or the biggest filter that stops us from really embracing our gift fully. So when we have an understanding of it, why something's happening or why something happened as they did, when I can give them that understanding and point to it, then they're able to shift it and embrace their gift even more.
And that's a question for a lot of people is like, how do I open out to my gifts? How do I embrace? How do I become clairvoyant or clairsentient? There's this thirst to get to that level of discovery. And I always advise you like slow down,
Yeah.
get in touch with this. Have you done your human work before we expand into that? And the way you speak, it's from such a level of expansiveness and understanding. And to have that perspective is quite refreshing. The question that I want to ask is for somebody that is actively using their gifts, but wants to enhance to take it to the next level or to see more, feel more, understand more, what would be an advice or a guidance that you would share with them right now?
Don't seek.
I love that.
Don't
Kind
seek
of
it.
waiting for that.
Because if you're seeking it, you're seeking it from the mind, at the level of the mind, right? That's where the seeking happens. The heart doesn't seek. The heart just opens up to receive and to experience. The mind is the seeker, and the answers we seek are not in the mind. The filters and the veils and the things that block us are in the mind. So we do need to go into the mind to clear those things and to be aware of those things. But if we actually, instead of seeking, sink into like that stillness, like you say, that connection to self and saying, okay, I'm opening to experience more. I'm open to my gifts expressing themselves more. What would that look like, feel like, taste like? So you're asking your divinity to meet yourself in your humanness and show you what that would feel like, because the feeling and the experience of your gift expressing itself or the message coming through differently is the answer you're really seeking. It's not the mind that needs the answer. It's the experience you need to feel, and then the mind will come along. If we can give the mind enough of an understanding through the experience, then the mind will actually come along for the ride. But it's not about seeking. It's about I was doing that for a long time. I was seeking. I want to see more. I want to see the energy more. I want to feel this. I want to like, oh, they're a seer. I want to be this seer. It's just like we're always comparing, right? And comparison is helpful because it can motivate us. But I feel for the most part, I discourage comparison because it's usually of the ego. Like I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I'm not hearing enough, seeing enough, intuitive enough. I need more, right? So that's the human nature, that's the ego nature. So we want to step away from the seeking, step away from the idea that we're not enough, and even stop the comparison and really sink in, okay, how can I be the greatest, most clear, present expression of my intuitive gifts, of my healing gifts for the world? How can I show up? What would that look like, feel like, taste like? Go into the experience and the feeling of it. Then you can bypass the filters of the mind and you will actually make more progress.
What if we start from a place of such expansiveness? Like, what if you are that God, the universe, the creator, and you start from that place and you're like, okay, how can I show up as such and experience the world? And then you'll get all kinds of downloads and
Mhm.
guidance and things to do.
So it's a matter of like, can I embrace my humanness and embody my divinity? It's both, right? And
Mhm.
then show me how to let my divinity animate my humanness and be the expression of my gift. So it's starting from that divine place, like you were saying, through the heart and into your humanness, as opposed to in your head going, okay, let me think about this. Let me figure out this. It's from the heart space.
Mm. And it's time to go back to the basics. How do we get from our mind into our hearts? How would you do that for
Yeah.
somebody that hasn't even practiced that hasn't even begun?
I like to use a couple different things. Sometimes I'll do like a staircase down from the head to the heart, or I'll do an elevator where I'll guide them into stepping into an elevator, closing the door, then actually like closing the door on the mind just for the moment, and then dropping down into the heart space as an elevator down. The challenge is it's a practice because we are born natural observers. We're born intuitive, but we are taught to get in our heads and analyze and figure things out and think about this and think about that. And doubt and fear and all those things all reside in the mind. So when we actually at this point, my practice is to abandon the mind. I'm abandoning the mind altogether, but that's my practice. That's where I'm at.
I met somebody the other week and they're like, I'm like, how are you doing? They're like, I'm trying to get out of my mind. I'm trying to lose my mind. And I'm like, that's actually a great
Lose
practice.
your mind. Yeah, that's it. And it's a practice. It's actually a practice. So people are like, how do I do it? And I'm like, it's about removing all the ways that we forgot that we're intuitive and shifting into the remembrance. When we remember that we're intuitive beings, when we remember that our heart is the direct bridge to our divinity, then we will actually shift out of the head and into the heart space and bring and let our divinity guide us and animate us from that space. The more of us that do that, the better. So the spiral staircase down, the elevator, you can place your hand on your heart and close your eyes and say, I wish to step out of my head and into my heart. What would that feel like? Help me remember that feeling. So then it becomes more of my second nature again, or it becomes more organic and natural for me again.
There are many practices that bring us to our hearts. And for those of you listening to us right now, I want you to simply take a moment and notice the shift within your heart because as Sue is speaking right now, there's this opening within our heart field because her heart is so open. It's like if I were to translate that, when you have that platform where airplanes land, and sometimes you have a small platform or parking lot for them to land. I feel like yours is so open. It's so wide. It's like this humongous airport. And that is your heart space for all of us to reside in this moment now and feel that presence.
Yeah, I love that image. And I appreciate you sharing that. So there was a time where my heart was very closed. So it's like there was no landing strip, at some point, because I just had so much fear and so much insecurity growing up. So I appreciate you reflecting that back and just reminding me of just how open it is compared to what it used to be. And the image of, mm, the planes coming and landing, it's just like, yeah, come on in, like come and feel what it feels like to be in that space where you're just so open and so, receptive to life. An open heart allows us to process life with such ease and grace and more of an accelerated rate. A lot of people believe that they need to close their heart down to prevent them from being hurt, but a closed heart actually holds the hurt in. And the hurt still gets in, it just gets trapped. So when we have this open heart, and I had to learn this the hard way, when we have an open heart, we allow the hurt to come in and be processed and then clear. So we don't hold it. It doesn't become density or a heaviness or a dis-ease in our body. It's moved through and processed like energy is meant to be moved through and processed. Every emotion is energy in motion,
Mm.
including hurt. including grief.
That is what I'm hearing right now is what if the heart is filled with a lot of anger, resentment, and hurt and pain from the past? When you open that, that's a whole new can of worms. What would be some steps that if somebody listening to it right now is like, okay, I'm ready to finally open up my heart and trust and maybe allow the love in? But I'm afraid because if you open, there's all of these things that I'll have to deal with. There will be some steps or quick steps to guide them through this transition. Or do they
Yeah.
need to work with someone?
Well, some wounds need witnesses. Some wounds we need to kind of walk with a witness to move through to the other side, to come full circle in our healing with certain trauma. Others, you can even just start off with, okay, anything that I'm holding that has nothing to teach me, that is not serving me, I ask it to be witnessed, processed, and healed instantly, just like that. We just did it. There, it's done. Like those of you that are listening, it was just like, if you were open to that, that just happened. So another way to do it is I love to use the central line. So their central channel of light from the tailbone through the top of the head. You can bring anything in to that central line and stir it in. So what happens is we want to avoid, or we want to push it down, we want to bury it, all the anger, resentment, especially anger, revenge, all those kinds of nasty, what we call, negative emotions. They're not negative. They're just more denser energies. They're just denser um, frequencies. It's okay. Fold them into the light. It's counterintuitive. People want to push them away, get rid of them. Let me clear this and let me get it out of here. I'm like, fold it in, fold it into the light, bring it in and stir it in like a recipe, and just stir it into your heart space. So as you're there, just breathing, and even as we're doing it right now, I'm helping you do it. And you're doing it because you're listening and you're willing, and we're just stirring it into the heart space. And when it gets stirred into that light, it actually gets processed. Some of it, there may be something you need to do. Most of it, most of what people are clearing right now is just old, stagnant energy that's been there way too long, from lifetimes and from this lifetime early on, all the way up until now. So when we clear what's not serving us, or when we clear what's old and stagnant that has nothing to teach us, it can really quickly go. So we stir it into the heart space and then send it down through the grounding cord into Mother Earth. Mother Earth will like gratefully take it and transmute that energy into something that will actually serve humanity. So our density, when transmuted with Mother Earth, actually serves and uplifts humanity. If we hold it, it holds us, anchors us down. If we process it and clear it, it can uplift all of us. So don't be afraid of it. Just honor it, witness it, stir it in, send it down. And then I often say, the words I'll use is, if there's anything I need to know, let it be brought to my heart to be understood, and then cleared. So we get a glimpse or a glimmer or an insight, something we need to do, somebody we need to talk to, or a direction we need to go to heal, and then the rest is cleared. The beautiful thing, when we look about 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the amount of time it took to heal stuff was way longer, and we would need way more healers. So let's say, to do what I do in an hour with somebody, you would need 20 healers to do before, right? Or I would need 20 sessions to do. There's an acceleration in the global energies. There's an acceleration in the efficiency of how our bodies are processing and our minds are processing. So if we actually lean into that acceleration, embrace it and honor it, it actually is not going to be as hard as we think. And it's not going to be as intense as we think. And there will be layers that will feel harder or more challenging to process, but it's not going to be near where it was 10, 20 years ago.
So we have at our fingertips not only modalities, but also very powerful light beings that channel those kind of energies to create this shift, the quantum speed. I remember I was going through a transition myself. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do private sessions anymore. I'm going to focus only on groups so I can create a bigger impact. And then my angels came in my dreams, like, no, you're still going to do private sessions only for those who seek you out, but they're not going to need you for a long period of time. They might just need you for one session because the impact is becoming stronger. And you're saying that, you just reminded me of that conversation I had with them. Like, okay, it's we are meant to connect with certain guides or people that are helping us, or soul family, I call it soul family members, to help us get to the next level or the next step of our soul's evolution. And a lot of the summits are here to meet those members. They're meant to be your family. That you made a contract maybe in past lives to come here and hear this message or get activated by, because the vibration when you're speaking, the vibration of the voice already amplifies those changes in the ether. There is a very common theme in this summit that I notice is to empower and to activate the divine feminine. And I feel like I'm sensing that is something you personally had to awaken within you and overcome at some point to find your voice and then be able to use that to help others. I don't necessarily want to know the struggle. I want to know what was that wave that pushed you out of that struggle.
It was a process for sure of learning to embrace and embody my divine feminine, but it was also a combination of aligning with the divine feminine and not judging or denying or pushing away the divine masculine. So it was that combination of the two that really helped me find that harmony. So when our divine feminine is out of balance or the divine masculine is out of balance, either way, there's no harmony. So it's about balancing both individually and together so that it becomes that beautiful dance and synergy of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us. And when I talk about that, I know most in this audience may understand that it's not just about the male and female in the world, like masculine and feminine in the world, men and women. It's about the divine masculine and feminine within us. And these energies have different purpose within us, just like yin and yang, light and dark, with light matter, dark matter. We couldn't see light matter without dark matter. When dark matter is in balance, it's beautiful. When it's out of balance, it's harmful and it's fear-based and it's controlling and manipulative. So we invite that dark matter or the masculine and the feminine to unite and to dance together so that it synergizes. So the ratio, if we look at it, so we for the longest time we look at the masculine energy in the world, men being in charge. We can look at that. That's how it's kind of projected outward and showed up. And now more and more women are rising. More and more women are embodying their divinity and stepping into their roles as these divine, feminine warriors or feminine priestess or whatever words resonate for you. And the more and more we do that, we're coming into a more of a balanced, harmonious ratio. So it's not about men and women being equal or the masculine and feminine being equal. It's about allowing the divine feminine to rise up just a little bit more than the divine masculine within each of us, men and women included. And the ratio in harmony in nature is actually 8 to 6, 8 feminine to 6 masculine. And when we have that harmonious ratio, then we have that balance between the two, that the yin and yang kind of spinning wheel. It's just like that's the harmony. So a lot of people think that, oh, the masculine's been way up here. We need to decrease the masculine. I'm like, well, let's rise the feminine, but not equal. Go up a little bit more, including in men. Men can embrace their feminine just a little bit more than the masculine. Then our whole world would shift. We
Mm.
would shift into more compassionate, nurturing, nourishing beings for each other. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing more and more men shift, and we're seeing more and more women rise. And when we are in balance within ourselves, when we are in harmony within ourselves, that harmony is felt and experienced on the outside. And then we all become these tuning forks to continue to influence the harmonious balance in the world.
As you're speaking this, I literally saw the formula that you were giving to change the world, which is to raise or activate the divine feminine, raise the divine feminine energy just a little bit more than a masculine. And if you think about like masculine energy is very much the do, the control, the it's leading from a place of fear. When you embrace the divine feminine, that's nurture, that's loving. So when you lead from that place, then even as an entrepreneur, when you picking up, let's say, your employees, maybe if you're leading from a place of heart, you will instinctively hire the right people for the right job instead of hiring somebody to do something that is out of alignment to them. They don't even like what they're doing. They're just doing it for money. Nobody prospers in that way.
When you talk about the masculine, the doing, and the feminine is the being, it's like it's not doing, getting it done. That's the way it's been. It's being in the doing,
Mhm.
intuitively being in the doing. So we get things done. It's like, but it's like there's a softness and a direct, if you combine the both in harmony and in balance, the marriage of the two in harmony creates more people being in the doing. So a deep presence as you're working, an awareness, an intention. So even something, my newest book is called We Are All Healers. And it's ordinary people with extraordinary intention will heal the world. That's a statement. And that I'm
Mm.
standing with that
That is
statement.
so true. Yes.
But it's about being a healing presence, right? And it doesn't matter what we do, whether we're a grocery clerk or a nurse or a healer or a mother. It doesn't matter what we do in the world. You can be a bank teller and have a difference. You can have an impact, because if you are being a healing presence or a loving presence or compassionate presence, it's embracing your divine feminine and the divine masculine within you while you're working. You're being in the doing, and the beingness, how you show up, who you show up as in your beingness, has such a powerful impact, and it's far more reaching than we realize. It creates a ripple effect and an impact on the healing of the whole. So if we could all show up as a healing presence, and whatever word resonates for you, mine is grounding, mine is peace. So that's how I show up. I'm a healing presence, grounding, peace, love, compassion, empathy. I have a lot of different words that I embrace, but pick one each day, pick one each morning. Say, okay, today I'm going to embody joy. Today I'm going to be a presence of peace. Today I'm going to be a presence of courage, however that's meant to show up. And you'll be amazed when you set that intention, how it actually impacts people around us, and how all of a sudden someone around us might be like, I'm just going to go for this. And you're just like, wow, there's courage. There's courage being reflected back. And it's such a miracle to witness the transformation that occurs when we set that intention of being before we set the intention of doing.
And now I feel like you already set the landing strip for all of us to go through a guided journey and to fully embrace our beingness or our light. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So beautiful, so magical, so expensive. I sense my subtle body being realigned. It's interesting because I right before this I did an activation to open up and have my field open and breathe like a diamond. And you probably sensed that because you're like, okay, some of your fields are way wide open, and mine was like it was bigger than my city size. I'm like, oh, sorry.
It's okay to do that, but yeah, every once in a while we need to bring it in. Yeah.
Yeah, I just jumped from one thing to another, so my field is wide open, and I feel like after this activation, all my subtle body just got aligned to where they need to be. Like sometimes our emotional body can be more expensive than, our energetic body, and they have to be in alignment for us to feel good. Thank you for this gift,
Mm-hmm.
for your
Welcome.
presence,
Mhm.
for igniting both sides, the humanness and the divine, masculine and the feminine, the harmony within all that we're meant to be.
Mhm.
What a gift. What a
Mhm.
gift. In conclusion, I feel like there's one module that is coming from you, and it's something related to the children.
Something related to the children of today.
Yes.
Mhm. I hear a lot of people afraid for the children. There's fear, there's worry, there's anxiety. And I'm not saying don't have concern, but don't have concern from fear, have concern from love. Our children are way more equipped than we give them credit for. They come in way more equipped than we did in our generation. They come in with less baggage than we did. So they don't have the stuff, the inherited stuff like we did coming in. So I want you to recognize that our children, yes, they're challenged. Yes, they're feeling the discordant energy. Yes, some of them are going to be really strong leaders and evolutionaries and visionaries that are going to shift humanity. But we don't need to be afraid for them and afraid of what they're going through. We need to see them as capable, support them in the way that we're meant to, hold them and show up as a loving presence, a compassionate presence, an empathic presence. But make sure you recognize they are powerful beings and they are practicing how to be powerful beings in this beautiful life classroom. And they each have a role to play. And if you can nurture that instead of fear what they're going through or fear how challenging it is for them, when we show up more as love, a loving presence, and see them as capable, we will actually empower them. And that will create the ripple effect and continue to create a ripple effect that will impact change, immeasurable change.
As you're sharing about our little children, I'm hearing, what about the adult children, the ones that are now equipped with all the tools and all the things they're sort of got pushed into it maybe halfway through their life, finding themselves maybe with a divorce, maybe with complete change of their life, but they're like maybe 40, 50, and what do they do?
Come from love. Same thing. Just understanding that, everything that's happening, if it's on your path, it's purposeful. It's purposeful for your evolution, for your soul's evolution and your human evolution, and for humanity's evolution. So if it's on your path, it's purposeful. If you're going through a life transition, if you're directed out of a job or somewhere out to something else completely, trust and follow that. Just trust it. Now, right now, as adults who are in this process of evolution, it requires deep trust and blind faith. You
Mm.
are going to be asked to take many leaps of faith. And I'm going to invite you and encourage you to take the leap each time. Just gather 10 seconds of courage. That's all it takes, 10 seconds of courage to take that leap or begin that leap and then follow your heart. But you're only going to be given moment to moment steps because what's happening right now is there's a lot of spiritual redirects. So we'll be guided towards something and we think that it's because we're going to get to that destination. But then all of a sudden, halfway through, spirit is like, this way, I need you, like, right turn. And so I don't even tell people what I'm doing or what's happening in the future because I don't even know if I'm going to do it. I don't even know if I'm going to fulfill that because I keep getting spiritual redirects. And the reason we're getting that more and more now is because we are tapping more and more into the collective consciousness and what is needed on a collective basis for all of humanity. And every moment, our guidance is serving the whole, whether we realize it or not. It looks like it's serving us on some level, and it is, but it's also serving the whole. So we're going to get a lot of little deep redirects. So trusting your intuition, following your heart, even when it doesn't make sense, and deep trust, blind faith is a recipe that will help you take those steps with a little bit more courage.
Deep trust, blind faith, and know that you already know.
Yes. The heart knows, the mind doesn't. The heart knows.
So maybe it's time to marry the two, just like we marry the masculine and the feminine energy within us, to marry the mind and the heart, the humanness and the light.
That's
That
exactly, and knowing that the heart needs to be a higher ratio than the mind, because the mind has been in charge. We need the heart. It's not about good or better, like better, it's just the heart needs to be in the driver's seat. The heart needs to be the guide and the lead, take the lead, and the mind comes along.
So another way, if we had run your entire life having your will in your mind, it's time to bring that will into your heart. Or I don't know if the accent wheel.
Wheel.
Wheel. It's time to bring the wheel
Yeah,
to the heart.
yeah,
That's what I meant to say. And allowing yourself, allowing your desire to be much bigger than the fear,
yes, yeah.
and allow the love to flow through. If I were you, I would go back and listen to this over and over, because what Sue has done as she was sharing with us these messages, there are a lot of activations happening in the back. And I promise you that every time you listen to it, you'll receive something completely different and new, something that you had been awaiting to awaken within you. And if every cell in your body tells you that, I don't know why, I've been maybe scattered and all over the place my whole life, but when I'm in Sue's presence, I feel like can stand on my own 2 feet. Like I can grasp who I am. If every cell in your body tells you that that is what Sue is for you, then reach out, follow the link below, and continue this journey to receive that guidance to come back into your highway, so it's easier to create from a place of love, so we can say yes to love and no to fear. My beautiful angel, thank you so much for your
Thank
gift, for your
you.
presence, for your love, for all that you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for creating this beautiful container. Mhm.
And so it is. Until the next time.